Howdy ho YouTubers, and welcome back to my part 5 of my Thatchers Island carp fishery update and my 1-year review. Apologies for the lack of content once again. It has been a very busy period for me. I'm sure you can imagine there's been quite a lot to do and I've had quite a lot of challenges to contend with that I'll go into during the video. For those of you that have never seen these videos, this is my part 5 of my mini kind of documentary of basically how I went from being a YouTube blogger to building my own carp fishery. There is a part 1, 2, 3 and 4. If you search my channel, you'll be able to find the videos in there and you'll be able to see the whole journey all the way through if you haven't seen it. For those of you who have, welcome back, and it's been quite a while. So let's get straight into it and I'll update you with what's been going on. So number 1 on the list, everything is green again. So finally, we've had some nice weather over the summer. Things have greened up quite a lot now. It's still not really where I need it to be, but I'm forecasting that next year things are really going to start to turn on a little bit more. But the banks are nice and green again. You know, the grass is starting to establish itself now, starting to wild up a little bit and starting to look a little bit more natural. So one of the things that has happened during over the summer, some of you may have noticed in that previous footage, is the water level was down quite a bit. So the water level started to really fall during the period from July onwards. So for our area, I went nearly 3 months without any meaningful rain, i.e. the drains didn't run whatsoever. So this caused me a real problem with water shortage. That, and being quite a new lake as well, it does tend to lose a little bit more water than, you know, an established lake. So unfortunately, I lost almost 2 foot of water in my first year. So with that being said, I couldn't really carry on in that scenario with just relying on the drains. I'm not saying that every year is going to be the same, but if I was to have another summer like we've just had, then the chances are, you know, I'm going to be in the same situation. So it was really time to kind of like think outside of the box and really decide on what I was going to do to kind of, you know, try and remedy the problem that I had. My first point of call for this was to get a further 2 land drains installed that would sit in the water table. So basically what would happen is we dug the drains down at about 15 foot, and the idea of this was that the soil pipe would sit inside of the water table, and that would give the lake a constant turnover of water so long as the water table was high enough. The problem that we had was the drains did work for a brief period of time. However, the water table would get too low and these drains would stop running, causing a lack of further water. So with that step being done and having really no success other than the water being able to flow through the pipes when the water table was up, I had to go to the next stage, which was go even further in the ground. And this is where I created a borehole. So for those of you that are unfamiliar of what boreholes are, mine is a 4-inch in diameter pipe drilled straight into the ground below the groundwater level and into what we call the aquifer. Now the aquifer is kind of like streams of water that run underground. They're what create groundwater, and they also are what create rivers and things of that nature. So it's basically water flowing underneath the ground, underneath what we call bedrock. Now mine was drilled down to 130 feet, 140 feet, around that mark. That's where they struck water, so that's where they stopped drilling. And I ended up with a flow rate of around 50 to 60 litres a minute. Now, your flow rate is basically your water that comes into your well at the rate that you can take it out. So I can take out anything up to about 50 litres a minute without the well running out of water. I've been running that pump now for the last, it's been in for the last 4 days. It's been running constantly. I've had no problems with it whatsoever. At the moment, I'm using it just to kind of refill the lake a little bit. But the key thing with it is I will be able to use this during the summer months when we get the dry periods. So I'll be able to keep the lake constantly topped up and keep it at a nice level that I'd like it at. So my apologies to everyone who's wanted an update sooner, but unfortunately these are situations that I've had to get under control before I've done anything else. But now things are starting to recover nicely. We had a little bit of rain over the last week or so. That filled the lake up a little bit, and now with the borehole as well and the pump, things are starting to pick back up. So I'm a little bit more calm. At one point, you know, I nearly had a nervous breakdown and I was freaking right out. But all okay now. As I say, water under the bridge. Yeah, so yeah, things are doing well now. So that is a situation all taken care of. As for things like the electric and running the pump, it's not really that expensive. It's only I think it was a 550 watt pump. So the running cost is like a couple of quid a day if you run it all day. The thing is, there are rules to the amount of groundwater you are allowed to take via the Environment Agency. So for me, I'm allowed to draw anything up to 20,000 litres a day. So in layman's terms, that would be 20 ICB tanks. So 20 ICB tanks worth of water a day, which, as you can probably appreciate, is quite a lot of water. Can't really see myself needing any more than that. If I do, I need to obtain an abstraction license, and you get that via the Environment Agency. It is also worth noting that if you ever do decide to undertake a project such as what I've done, you are going to be faced with these challenges. I didn't think that I would ever need a borehole, but, you know, the situation 12 months previous was that the ground was making water, and then all of a sudden everything stops making water and you start to suffer with evaporation. I get a lot of evaporation here because I'm right out in the open. There's no cover, so the sun is on it constantly, and I get a lot of wind. You get a lot of evaporation from wind. You'd be surprised at how much water you can lose from that. So all of these things considered, they're really not something that I expected to see, but you know, that's definitely been a challenge for me this year, and you know, one that hopefully by the end of this year I would have gotten on top of. So with all that being out the way, in other news that I've got to report, all of the otter fence is now complete. So the fishery is completely fully fenced, and it is now live, completely live. So I've managed to take care of that this year. I've also finished off all the paths and walkways around the fishery. So you can get around, and like that now allows things to grow up in the surrounding area without having to tread on the grass every 5 minutes. So that's all done. I've also made an extension to some of the swims. What I've done is I've put a grass area in behind the swim. Now the purpose of this is not everybody likes to sit close to the water. Not everyone likes to sit on top of their rods. I know that I'm not one for doing that as well. So what I decided to do was make a little grass area in behind where you could put a bivvy. And that just gives you a little bit more extra space, allows you to put your bivvy a little bit further back. And for those of you that don't want to put your ground sheets on gravel and things like that, then you're able to do that here now. Other developments include a new upgrading tractor. So I decided to invest in a new tractor, a little 2-cylinder diesel, compared to the little ride-on that I used to use to just cut the grass with. But the main benefit with the tractor, this one, is that I'm able to attach a loader to it. I've got an attachment for it already that came with it, so I'll be able to do things like construct my car park and use it for other various things around as well. But it's also got a topper on the back, a meter long topper, 4-foot topper. So I'm able to cut the grass a lot faster, and it's just an all-round better tool to use, a little bit more robust, and makes life a lot easier. During this month as well, I've also been doing some more planting. So I've managed to get my hands on some really nice adult typha. Most of you will probably know it as its common name of bulrush. So I'm hoping that next year these will all, you know, because they're already fully mature, they should grow up into adult plants for next year, bringing the fishery on a little bit closer. Along with the plants that are already in here, hopefully things will start to move on a little bit more during year 2. So finally, the question that everyone wants to know: what's been happening with the fish? Well, the quick answer is that they've done really well. They're fed every day, right from April up until will be the end of this month, which is October now. They're fed a high protein pellet. Some of you may have seen it before. It's called Alla Aqua Best. I feed it in a 6ml version, and they absolutely trough this stuff down. So yeah, me and Pickles feed it pretty much every day, and they seem to get on with it really well. We've had some really good growth rates this year. I've had fish doing over 8 pounds now in weight gain since they went in November 2020. So the water temperature's starting to cool down a little bit. They're just on their last little feed up really before the winter, or before the real autumn weather kicks in now. So yeah, they're having a bit of a feed up at the moment. You see them in the mornings most of the time, but yeah, everything is moving in the direction of good things. I've got fish in here up to just under 29 pound now, and I've got about, I think it was 11 fish now that are between 29 and 20 pound. So and that's only the ones that I've caught. I suspect that there are more, but yeah, these are some of the ones that I've already had, and they've done really well. So hopefully next year we'll continue to see the growth, and yeah, hopefully do a 30 pounder by next year. So that pretty much covers me on the update front, and pretty much everything that's happened since my last update. So hopefully that's been able to answer some of the questions out there. I know it doesn't look much at the moment because it's really hard to gauge like the development side of it compared to what it was. It probably looks a little bit similar to as it did you know, a few months ago, but I can assure you that things are on the up here for sure, and I'm pretty sure by next year we'll really start to see some growth here, and it will start to mature and look totally different. So that's about all I can do. Unfortunately, time is of the essence, and I can't rush Mother Nature. So I'm going to carry on the road that I'm doing. The fish will be carried on, getting fed over the winter. They'll convert to a lower protein diet of about 25% protein. Then they'll go on to the wheat-based pellet that I was feeding last year that BP Milling do. So they'll go on to that, not as much. They'll be fed every other day, and that will come down to 1% of the biomass, which I've yet to recalculate for this year. So yeah, hopefully you've all enjoyed my update. There isn't really a lot else I can tell you other than the plan still remains the same for opening, which is 2024. If things develop properly and I can get the fishery to where I want it to be, I may open a year earlier, but it all depends on the development, and I will not open the gate until I'm happy with it. Because the last thing I want is for you guys to turn up here and go, whoa, this is a hole in the ground. So I want it to be a lake. I want it to be proper. I'm sorry that it's taking so long, but that's just the nature of it. So tight lines, one and all. I hope you are all well, and I shall see you soon.